Hey, the Craig Fahle Show on Deadline Detroit is made possible by Samaritas, which is the state's largest private foster care and adoption agency. But they do a heck of a lot more than that. They've been serving homeless families, persons with disabilities, abused and trafficked women. They're also one of the largest resettlement agencies in the state. They provide market rate and affordable housing for seniors and HUD housing for families. And they also have skilled nursing, memory care, and rehab communities in Grand Rapids, Cadillac, and Saginaw. Samaritas, thanks for their support. Great organization, doing great stuff all around the state. Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to the week that was on Deadline Detroit. I am Craig Fahle, joined as usual by my friends Nancy Derringer and Alan Lengel from Deadline.
Hello.
And as we said in the intro to this, that
Detroit.
those of you watching on Facebook probably got a chance to see, what a week. What a week.
God.
What a week. So much stuff to talk about locally, nationally, internationally. We'll talk about Greenland at some point. I don't want to get there. That's, by the way, the biggest potential distraction you could have towards what else is going on. But
last night I came in. I had an.
pay no attention to the 800-point drop in the Dow. The fact that we're going into recession.
I had to do this
Greenland.
thing last night. I didn't come in until 9 o'clock. I was very
Nice
tired,
piece of property.
and I was cold. And I'm sitting there with my husband. I opened my laptop, and I said a very bad word, and I believe it was combined with other bad words. It was a multifaceted obscenity. And he goes, "Let me guess, Greenland."
We'll get to that a little bit later.
Okay.
You know, it's
Silliness
funny.
abounds.
I was watching Anderson Cooper interview Colbert last night.
Okay.
And they just both casually said, this is shit. And this is bullshit. And I was like, wow, what's happening here? And it was like, I think after 11 you can swear a little
Yes,
bit
you can.
Yeah.
more openly, but this was
On network TV.
after 9 o'clock, but it's cable. I guess
It's cable.
I don't know.
It's
I guess.
cable. You can pretty
You
much
can do
whatever
anything
you
in
want
cable.
now.
On basic cable, I believe they allow you one S-bomb. And I'm not going to use the words because if you use any more of them, we're going to have to put an E on this podcast. And that's not a good thing.
Yeah, that's true. I don't want to do that. That rules out the kids.
Yeah. Exactly. And we want
We don't
those
wanna
curious.
lose our
definitely
biggest
appealing to the
audience.
kids, right?
We
You
want
know?
those curious children to tune in.
That's
or to
exactly right.
listen to
Well,
this.
let's start more
Okay.
locally. It is a national and international kind of thing, but Rashida Tlaib, a member of the quote-unquote squad, our congressperson from Southwest Detroit, has been in the news because originally she had wanted to go on this trip to Israel so she could go into Palestine, see her grandmother, Palestinian, or I think on the West Bank somewhere is
West
where her
Bank,
grandmother lives.
correct.
And she was going to go into the West Bank, visit her grandmother. Donald Trump, of course, has been going after the squad, suggesting they're all anti-Semitic, horrific people, and found a way to convince the Israeli government to not allow her and Ilan Omar an opportunity to go to Israel as part of this fact-finding trip that they were doing.
I think
So she was disinvited by the Israeli government, who then backtracked a few
But just
hours
for
later,
her.
but just for her, so she could go visit her grandmother. And now Rashida Tlaib says, I don't think I want to go.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, this whole thing has just been such a back
You
and
know
forth.
what, though? I don't want this to be about her turning down this opportunity to see her grandma. Okay, I don't want this to be about her. What this story is about the president of the United States telling an ally that they should not admit a member of Congress
Absolutely.
to that is outrageous.
Well, the fact that they also capitulated to that demand originally is
Well,
something that shocks me a little bit.
yeah,
Well,
but
it doesn't
Israel
doesn't
is run
shock
by
me that-
lunatics these days, just like we are.
Well, Netanyahu and Netanyahu's just a little bit more of a sophisticated Donald Trump. I mean, it is disgraceful. I've got relatives in Israel. My brother was in the Israeli army, and I understand the Palestinians have not. I mean, I'm very pro-Israel, but I'm also pro-Palestinian. The Palestinians have not had a spokesperson in Washington, or really a true advocate. I don't agree with everything she says, and there's certainly, I talk to other Jewish people who feel like some of the stuff that her and some of her colleagues say is anti-Semitic, and it at minimum it's at times insensitive, and it's just unsophisticated. I mean, there's a way to get forth your views and be more effective than the way she's approaching it, but she certainly has a right, and it is a disgrace that the United States, and it's really about, Trump doesn't care about peace in the Middle East. Trump cares about these people are criticizing him, so he's going to go after them in such a
agree.
vindictive
It's very
way.
petty.
I mean, here it is. It's an opportunity. She's in my district. I voted for her. I had friends who were like, don't vote for her. She's anti-Semitic and stuff. And I said, no, look. I'm hoping I was hoping she could go to Israel and actually, when you meet the people that you are dissing all the time, you see a human side to that as well. You just don't see a Jew, but you see a person behind that, that label. And I was hoping that her and some of her colleagues could go to Israel, and certainly they can speak out. And and we were talking about this earlier about the oppression. Have the Israelis oppressed the Palestinians? Yes, the average Palestinian in ways, but the issue that doesn't come out on the flip side is about security. What about, I don't see anybody, Hamas, we talk about peace in the Middle East. Hamas says, we want peace as long as you recognize that Israel doesn't exist in our mind.
Well, right. I mean, and we're not going to litigate the Israeli-Palestinian conflict on this show. Or we'll be
I think we can resolve it right here.
That's Jared Kushner's job.
Well,
okay.
Right, yeah,
I thought he already did it.
Take away his job.
So, but I mean, it's just, to me, like I said, it is a constant series of lowering the bar, I mean, we have lowered it. We have dug the trench. The bar is down in the trench, and we just keep digging the trench and making it deeper. It's simply outrageous. So
it's Donald Trump really just damaging the world through
Yes.
his personal, vendettas and stuff like that. And it's terrible I mean, originally the ambassador to the U.S. for Israel said, yes, we're going to let them in. And I mean, there is a law that says if you are supporting the boycott that they can keep you from coming in. But they're members of Congress, and I think it would be beneficial to have them come and have some actual dialogue with people,
Right.
that a good exchange where both sides can learn something.
Absolutely.
I would like to see it too, but we'll see what happens with this. All right, let's go close to home here, because this has been something I've been watching and was talking about this week on my show, on my podcast, and that's what's going on in Oakland County. In this, they got 30 days to figure out whether or not there's going to be, a permanent or an interim county executive in the wake of Brooks Patterson's death. So they gave themselves 30 days, which means that Brooks had barely even been laid to rest before the shenanigans began.
And shenanigans they have been.
They have been. Well, you were telling me something this morning that we'll get to in just a second,
Okay.
because it's very strange. But boy, the Democrats really screwed this one up. I have to do this
They've
because
been out of power for so long they don't know how to use it.
they've never had power in Oakland
know,
County.
that's true. That's
so
very
Dave
true.
Woodward thinks he's got the votes. He thinks he has one Republican that's going to vote with him, so he can resign and get the 11 votes he needs to be the interim county commissioner. This is last week.
Yeah.
So he resigns.
From the commission, because and
commission,
then immediately
as chairman
puts
of the
his name in for immediately puts his name in to be appointed county executive.
Exactly.
Okay.
But the thing is, there are other people that
then-
would like to challenge that do not want to give him the opportunity to be the incumbent for any length of time.
Right.
Because some other people might want to run for that seat next year.
Sure.
And so he didn't have the votes he thought he had.
Right.
And so he resigns, and they immediately pulled the rug out from under him and don't call the vote that they were expecting to call that day.
They adjourn the meeting.
Meeting's
over,
the meeting.
bye.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's like he's the guy who just jumped out of the plane and the parachute is not deploying. Right. Okay.
So they do this.
Yes.
Now, Dave Woodward says, I rescind my resignation because you guys never voted on whether to accept my reservation, so therefore I'm back on the commission, which gives the Democrats their 11-10 majority again.
Right.
What they do with it, though, at this point, they seem to be frozen. They don't have a candidate that everybody's going to unify behind.
No.
And the Republicans are going to unify totally around Gerald Poisson, who's in that position right now. Mm-hmm. So they've got 10 solid there. Mm-hmm. Democrats need to align with somebody else, and it's not going to happen.
The circular firing squad is just really something to behold.
Well, and I think what happens is that basically the Republicans I think Poisson's just going to end up staying.
Well, I think he will. I mean, and I think a friend of mine
And then he
texted
becomes a
me-
formidable candidate if he wants to do it next year.
A friend of mine texted me, he said that, hell is frozen over. I agree with Mike Bouchard, which is that, what should happen is Poisson should be appointed to fill out the rest of this term and let the Democrats fight it out in the primary process, which is probably better than trying to do all this other stuff.
I have a question.
Yes.
I understand. I mean, I worked in the Lansing Bureau of the Detroit News, and I understand the difference between Democrats and Republicans in power. I mean, we see it in various forms. What do you think the difference is really in Oakland County, the distinction in terms of whether the Republicans or the Democrats rule? What do we see differently in the county?
Well, you mean?
I mean,
you're
in
talking
terms of
about
policies,
how their
yeah,
policy-
and policies. What I mean, it's harder to see the micro, the
Well, I
policies
mean, there are
of
certain issues that have divided, Oakland County along kind of roughly along party lines. Public transit is
Yeah,
one.
transit, I think, is
Okay.
one
It's
that could
probably
be
the
severely
biggest
impacted
one.
by this.
Probably sprawl and certain infrastructure questions. Where I think Democrats would, advocate not going, what do you call it, crazy into the future with just more and more sprawl and more, let's run the lines out, let's do all this other stuff. Maybe we should be thinking this through a little more.
Well, and I think one of the big things that I've seen in just talking to the people that represent southern Oakland County versus those in northern Oakland County is the need for infrastructure repair in the southern part of
Yes.
the county. It's old.
Right.
It's, these are suburbs that were built in the 40s and 50s for the
Right.
most part.
and do you think one party is less?
Well, the Democrats
likely?
mostly represent the southern part of the county, and as you look at the demographic changes taking place in Oakland County, a lot of the money's going to support new development. Again, new roads, new sort of stuff, and
They're
and
saying let's fix what we have.
Let's
Same thing
fix
is
what we
happening
have.
in Macomb too.
Well,
especially
and the
with
thing is-
roads.
and if you look at it, the inner-ring suburbs are having the same problems in many instances that the city of Detroit had, with people moving to different places. They're losing people. There's not the investment going in, and obviously in places like Ferndale, that's not the case. But Oak Park,
Yeah.
has been struggling for a long time. Royal Oak Township has been struggling for a long time.
Forever.
Southfield,
Royal Oak Township forever.
Southfield's got some issues that they're dealing with right now, and they're, Brenda Lawrence has been screaming from the rooftops for years about infrastructure needs in Southfield,
Right.
And it just hasn't been happening. And all their energy has been focused on building up Auburn Hills and Automation Alley and all that sort of stuff,
Right.
and places out north of Rochester.
So that's a real division. So that
Okay.
answers your
All right.
question.
Okay.
I mean,
That
I
gives
think
me,
I think that's what you might see in terms of spending priorities and things like that.
Right,
Road
okay.
commission issues, and also just regional cooperation. I think is going to be a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people that say, "Screw Wayne County and Macomb County. We don't
Right.
care about them."
Yeah.
Making sure communities can't opt out of transit. I think that's hugely
That's
important.
Really important.
I think it's interesting with the transit issue is that, sure, people in Macomb County and in Oakland County and even in Wayne County are going to be standing there in the cold for an hour, when it's 5 degrees out. And the problem is, they're not going to use, they complain, we're paying for something we're not going to use. Yeah, you're not going to use it because it's not very good. I mean, if it was actually a
Right.
good system, and that's, it drives me crazy, that argument.
Right. Yeah, it's you don't use something that's crappy.
Right,
But
right.
at the same time, also, I mean,
But don't
if the
undermine it
people who
intentionally
live in-
to make
yeah,
it
Except for
crappy.
the 160.
Yeah. No, the 610.
610, that's it. The
six-
610,
people-
that's one of the
bus.
great buses.
610,
One of
620.
the great, it's
Smart,
a
way to go.
memorable ride I had from here to
Grosse Pointe.
Grosse Pointe Park. Yeah, Grosse Pointe
from
City.
caught
actually.
it downtown. It came exactly on time. It was such a nice ride.
There's a
I was
reason
just
Nancy and I take the bus from the east side all the
blown
time.
away
It works.
by how easy and efficient it was.
I know, and I get to
Well-
work not stressed out. It's amazing.
Yeah.
If I can, but if I
nice.
can take it away from our petty concerns, it's a huge employment issue.
Yes, it is.
Maybe you, Doctor So and So, who works in Oakland County, lives in Oakland County, and drives a Mercedes that has great, Bluetooth audio. You're not going to take the bus, but maybe some of the nurses who work at your hospital do. And it's a matter of getting people, particularly low and middle skilled job holders, from the less affluent areas of the metro area into the places where their jobs are.
I had a debate about this up on Mackinac Island last year with a person who owns a rather large theater company here in town.
My sympathies.
And he was arguing against the regional transit question. And on the other side was Khalil Rahal, who's the deputy county executive here in Wayne County. And I was moderating this discussion. I asked him the question. I said, well, we're hearing a lot about employees. He said, well, it's not a big deal for me. Their parents drive them to work.
Oh,
and I said,
right.
That's the whole point I was trying to make, is that you
Right.
basically are ruling a whole bunch of people out from even being considered for employment because they have no way to get there
Right.
in Novi, because
Right.
Novi is an opt-out community.
Yes.
Yeah, they can get dropped off maybe a couple of miles away in Farmington Hills.
Yeah, and then you end up with people like the Walking Man, the famous,
Yeah, they-
epic story that the Free ran a few
But
years ago.
what was the solution to that problem? Well, let's buy this guy
Yeah,
a
let's
car.
buy him a car. I
Instead
know,
of fix
right.
the system so guys like him aren't out there doing
right.
this kind of stuff.
I mean, it's like healthcare. If you really want to get depressed someday, and I know we're all looking for that.
That's what we're looking for on a
extra
Friday, that's for sure.
depression. Yeah, go on one of these GoFundMe sites or whatever, and just plug shooting into the search window and find out all the people out there who did not die in mass shootings, but maybe took one in the somewhere and survived, and now need thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to help their recovery. If not for their medical care, for their economic recovery because they couldn't work, and it's awful. And so the buying the guy a car is the GoFundMe solution to healthcare. It's like let's not all work to save one guy. Let's try to work to save everybody.
All right. Well, we've got to move on.
I'm sorry.
Because we get there for a long time. But
can you tell I'm a little angry these days?
Well, we've got to talk about stuff that went on this week with the president, because I was worried I was going to forget some stupid stuff that happened. It seems like the Epstein stuff was a long time ago.
Sorry, Jeffrey Epstein died when?
Yeah, last weekend,
yeah,
Saturday
right.
morning, and there's now some questions. The conspiracy theories have been out there in force. I don't think the Clintons did it, by the way. Pretty sure that they didn't do it. But
you're only saying that so they don't come after you.
Well, that's right. Well, here's something to consider. If the Clintons could kill all these people, why is Monica Lewinsky still with us?
Why is Anthony Weiner still with us?
There you go. Think about this.
But
Donald Trump went there. He went there, fanning the flames of this conspiracy theory, which is despicable.
Just unheard of. I found it particularly interesting is that, the weekend before when we had the mass shootings and stuff, you didn't hear that much from the Attorney General, William Barr. 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We didn't hear much from William Barr. And then suddenly William Barr is appalled over this, alleged or whatever suicide. He's appalled by it. And it's like he's so outraged, and we're going to get to the bottom of this. It's like I find that so disconcerting that that's where their concern is. Not that, we don't want people getting murdered in jail if in fact that's happened. But there's no indication at this point that it's anything but a suicide.
Well, and especially given that it's also the reason that he was not monitored and taken off suicide watch is it was a staffing issue, which those of us who deal in the real world recognize as something that is highly believable, as opposed to
some dude fell asleep on a shift. Yeah. Shocking.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And it's,
how many people died in the mass shootings? All these innocent people, and here it is. We're worried about Jeffrey Epstein, who was not the most not the most ideal citizen.
Well, notice though that this happens. Right? And they're all talking about this conspiracy stuff. The president fans the flames. What are we not talking about? We're not talking about the political pressure on Congress right now to actually do something on background checks, to do something on potentially weapons. We don't know what they're going to do, but everybody's sort of forgotten about it already. And it's only been a couple of weeks because we get distracted by this crap.
But again,
it's legitimate crap that gets distracted by.
It is legitimate crap, but at the same time, when people say that, I feel like the people who say don't publish the name of the mass shooter because that's only what they want. It's like, no, what are we supposed to do? Not cover these things?
Yeah, exactly.
The president is talking about buying Greenland and we're not supposed to talk about it? This is part of our job. So, we have to do this.
Well,
stuff.
we do. But like I said, the focus has gotten away from something that's
agree.
very, very pressing from a societal impact standpoint.
But how do we bring it back?
Well, I think you just keep shouting from the rooftops saying, hey, what are you going to do about this?
We have this bull in a china shop who's rampaging through the Oval Office, and this is what the...
Well, not to mention, that also happened this week where he basically backed off his threat against Chinese tariffs, saying that, hey, we don't want to screw up Christmas, which it was a de facto admission that, hey, consumers pay tariffs, not the Chinese.
No, the Chinese pay it. Yeah.
No, you liar. You know that you're going to ruin someone's Christmas.
Everybody else pays. Mexico pays for the wall. China pays for our tariffs.
But the one thing that he's been able to hang his hat on is the economy, right? And the stock market.
Right.
Well, it's starting to show signs that it may be faltering. And other governments, the Chinese government, are seeing their growth slow. Their economy is slowing. The European economy is starting to slow a little bit. Ours is starting to slow. This inverted curve that everybody's talking about, which
Yield curve,
sounds more like, that Peyronie's disease commercial than anything else. But... But it's apparently a sign that things are going to slow down.
Yeah.
So again, bring in Greenland. So we don't talk about the fact that the economy is starting to show signs of weakness, and your one alleged strength could actually be a weakness that you created yourself by the stupid policy.
Oh, I know. I totally. Hey, Preach. Do you have anything to add to that, Alan? I mean,
I like Greenland.
Well, now that it's melting, it's going to be even better. Beachfront property.
Right.
Trump towers everywhere.
the Grinch who saved Christmas. I guess that's what this is. So,
But I mean, it's just this whole week, if you think about this, you got real economic concerns.
Yeah.
You've got the fact that Congress is going to have a lot on their plate when it comes to this gun stuff. Hopefully, some sort of action gets taken there.
unrest around the world. Okay. India and Pakistan in Kashmir.
I didn't even have time to talk about that this week, and I really wanted to get to that because, here's my favorite part of this week.
Okay.
He says both India and Pakistan have asked me to help them negotiate, and they both said, no, we didn't. We don't want to negotiate.
Right.
They're like, who's talking about negotiation?
Who better to get as a peacemaker?
They want me to, they're like, both countries asked me to mediate, and they said, no, we don't. We don't want to mediate at all. Right. India and Pakistan are on a collision course right now.
So your listeners understand, that
50,
was a
60 years.
That was a bitter laugh, not a. that was a bitter sarcastic.
But he's like, they both want me to mediate.
Yeah, they want me to come in because I'm the greatest deal maker.
It's funny how low the bar has become for our expectation that the president is truthful. We don't expect it anymore.
No.
We don't believe anything he says.
Right.
We don't expect. We're not like, oh my God, he lied. I mean, it was funny in the beginning of his term. You'd see New York Times reporters, Washington Post reporters, and they'd sort of dance around. Well, I think that statement might not be totally accurate. And now it's just like, yes, the president's lied again.
Yeah.
And they've sort of taken that nicety off there.
But you're fake news, Alan, when you say that stuff. You're just fake news.
Fake news.
Yeah. So
NPR, definitely fake news. Ken Cuccinelli,
master of
fake news.
who's now in charge of immigration, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services in the Trump administration. Well, acting director, because that's all they've got.
They only have acting directors.
But they were asking, the question he was asked about the immigration policy that was just unveiled this week, where they're saying basically you have to be smart and able to stand on your own 2 feet to get into the United States.
Yeah.
Which basically, in effect, rules out S-hole countries.
Yeah.
That's exactly what Stephen Miller wants.
We're going to chisel that Emma Lazarus poem off of
here's the question. The question was asking about the words inscribed in the Statue of Liberty. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore.
Right, yeah.
And he said, no. He said, they asked, is that part of the American ethos? And he said, well, they certainly are. Give me your tired and your poor who can stand on their own 2 feet and who will not become a public charge.
It's
and
unbelievable.
He said, later in the day when he was on CNN, this is the great part, he's on CNN later, to clarify it even more, he said, well, of course, that poem was referring back to people coming from Europe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's not racist.
Class-based societies where people were considered wretched if they weren't in the right class.
Oh, that's not racist at all. No.
Well, again, but it fits right into what about the people from Norway instead of all
why
these
can't we
S-hole
get more
countries?
Norways? Because they don't want to come here. So
I mean,
right? But they're like, why
leave the social safety net of Norway?
Could you be any more clear about what your intentions are?
No, you couldn't be any more clear than that.
It's interesting. I always find this so interesting.
By the way, can I just say this? That is a beautiful poem, and everybody quotes the last few lines. It's a sonnet. It's a little bit longer than that. Look it up. It's a beautiful poem. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say that it's. I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, I was going to say that it's interesting that Trump has demonized the immigrants. And his wife, who is an immigrant, is on a crusade against bullies.
She's a hot immigrant.
Well, she's
European.
We want more models.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, you've got to be at least a 9 to get in this country. He'll be like, she's an 8. Forget it. We've got plenty 8. We need more 9s and 10s.
Yeah.
So I was not.
Anyway,
no,
and of course, here we are in Detroit, which is we're roughly at the century mark of the great boom that kind of established the Motor City, right? The automotive industry, and all of these. So everybody in Detroit is probably 5 generations at the most away from their ancestors who came over from some of these S-hole countries, which would have been
Ireland.
Yeah,
Italy.
mean, hey, look at restrictive covenants from those times. They considered Italians to basically be, the wrong element. So I mean, it would have been all over Southern Europe, down into Macedonia, Albania, all these people. And it's like, if any of these people, I mean, and look what they are now. I mean, they came over, they worked, they got jobs, they rose, they moved to Oakland County, whatever they did. But I mean, that is so insulting to the very idea of the United States of America. It takes the breath away.
Well,
especially somebody named Cuccinelli, for crying out loud.
Well, speaking of wretched refuse,
yeah.
Iowa's got a little bit of that in the form of a man named Steve King, of course, a congressman from Iowa.
Oh boy!
And so he was asked a question from an audience member at a conservative forum in Iowa, and they said, "Well, why are you opposed to an exception for rape and incest in any sort of abortion legislation?" Right?
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't want any exceptions for rape and incest, and he said, "Well, I'm not sure there'd be any population of the world left without rape and incest. What if we went back through all the family trees and just pulled out anyone who was a product of rape or incest? Would there be any population of the world left if we did that?"
Wow.
Considering all the wars and all the rapes and pillages that happened throughout all these different nations, I know that I can't say that I was not a part of a product of that.
Wow.
So this is a man saying, we
Wow.
need rape and pillage.
Yeah, we need rape and incest to repopulate the world. Of course. This is a guy who watched too many caveman cartoons where the guy knocks the woman over the head and drags her away by her hair.
Yes, exactly.
That guy's just a disgrace.
Well,
I mean,
finally, some people
we-
are saying maybe it's time for him to go on the Republican side. But I mean, just the fact that this guy's brain
The
works
bar
this
is
way.
so low.
Yeah,
I mean,
I know.
look, Trump has set the bar so low. So who can say anything more offensive than Trump? So this guy's trying.
He's trying.
He's trying,
He's
but it's
really
like nobody's
trying.
offended anymore. I mean, the Republican Party, I hate to say it, the bar has gone so low now, and nobody is the majority of the party does not criticize the president.
And that's the real danger.
I think it was Liz Cheney actually came out the other day and said, "This is too much.
Oh,
This is
how
a bridge
nice.
too far."
I'm so happy for her. I mean, but that
what
is
an
the
accomplishment!
danger.
It's like where's the bar? Like
Right.
murder?
That is,
That's
it,
right.
Well,
you know?
that is the danger. It's the destruction of these norms, of these kind of. It's in the end, democracy is kind of a very delicate thing that we all sort of have to agree to. And so when you have somebody in high office, the highest office, talking like that, treating people like that, insulting people, I mean, you're taking. This guy is, if I can just be a little bit crude for a minute, this guy is like the world's worst fart. And, when he leaves the room, I mean, the smell is going to linger for a long time. So I'm sorry. That was gross, but you know what I mean.
Probably smell like one of the cow pastures in this Iowa district.
Not King. I'm talking about Trump, but both of them.
I need to circle back to Oakland County because there's a couple things we didn't get to in that story.
Okay. Oh, that's right.
But we will. But first, I love the fact you have this commissioner, Ms. Taub, in Oakland County, who sent an email the other day saying she got a FOIA request from a reporter to see what kind of communications there have been back and forth about who's going to replace and the jockeying for position that's going on there.
All of which is public record.
She sends out an email to everybody saying, delete, delete, delete now. You're not supposed to do that stuff.
You're not supposed to do that. You do
You're
that
a
on
public
the phone.
official.
Right.
Well, that's exactly right. So she sends it, and she's like, well, it wasn't for any real deliberation. It was just in case we said anything nasty about the other people.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't want that to.
So
We
I'm
don't want any hurt
So
feelings.
what are you sending in your email? What are you saying about your colleagues in email that you can't see publicly?
Right.
So she may be
They're
facing some
shredding the
problems for it.
files.
That's a very dumb thing to
I
do.
didn't want to forget about that, but she could be facing potential charges for that at some point. There's an investigation going on. Her name is Shelley Goodman Taub, a Republican from Bloomfield Township, just so I can say that both parties in this are acting equally reprehensible. But
Very
then
much
also
so.
the public is acting very strange. You alerted me to this morning, Nancy.
This
I'm
was-
going to have to explain this because apparently the aura in that room is so bad right now.
Well,
that this
there's
citizen had to
apparently
take
a
action.
very earnest employee, not a member of the public, an employee of Oakland County who had access to the commissioner's meeting room and wanted to do something about the quote negativity in the room, on the council. And so she apparently anointed anointed the room with olive oil. She put it on all the seats, on the door handles, on some other stuff. It's like, how some people come in and they, these new age hippie types, they come in with their sage.
Yes.
The smudge sticks, and we need to cleanse this place. Apparently, her cleansing ritual involves olive oil.
Oil.
There you go.
Because I would be really excited if I
you
came to my
imagine?
meeting, I sat down on my seat and slid right off.
Got
There
a
you go.
little stain there.
Someone's getting the cleaning bill
Had
for
a
that
little
one.
stain
I know.
walking away. and
Actually,
you're
there's
like,
no cleaning bill. You might as well just throw them away because
You really did. Olive oil, it
ruins
doesn't come
everything.
out. I've
Right.
got plenty of tomato sauce stained T-shirts in my drawer. But I don't know if she did if she poured it, if she sprinkled it, or what the deal was. But apparently, it's everywhere. So.
Well, going back to
that is really the comic clown horn exclamation point that this story needs, in my opinion.
Well, one last thing on the transparency issue. This is great. The Department of Environmental Quality apparently agreed to participate in a web meeting with a person is looking to get a permit for an open pit mine in the UP. And mining in the UP is a big issue. It's something citizens actually care about and they are very concerned about because there's been a ton of pollution over the years from the mining industry. It's sort of a...
At the same time, it is a source of very well-paying jobs in a
absolutely.
place that has hardly any.
But they didn't want there to be any public discussion of this because this is the great line. So here's what you have in this submission to the DEQ. Jeff called back in the afternoon and told me that Aquila, I believe, does not want to have the documents submitted to DEQ, that's the name of the company, because they do not want the public to see it prior to the submittal of the final version because they may react to stuff. Which makes me wonder, what stuff might they react to? They may react to the fact that we're going to pollute this river, or they may react to the fact that people could get their groundwater poisoned. We don't know. Or we're going to be blowing stuff up.
Yeah.
Yes, they may react to that. So they basically had a meeting against the Open Meetings Act. It looks like it's a violation of this.
Did they have it via Skype?
No, apparently there may be a record of it somewhere. I'm not sure, but
Good one.
it seems to me that you have a public official who basically agreed to the arrangement so they could do it in private.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to do that.
No, you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to tell people delete. You're not supposed to do a lot of stuff. But apparently this 101 level governmental procedure norms have not been widely disseminated in Michigan. You'd think they would, but anyway.
All right. Well, one last thing.
Okay.
We've only got 2 minutes left here, and I want to talk about this because this was just a weird thing, and this is not a local story. But some guy in Virginia wearing a television on his head took to 50 different houses, took old TVs, the kind that nobody uses anymore.
The big blocky ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
And just left them on people's front porches for
Right.
no reason.
Yeah.
Was it an art project to see how many people could catch him on their door cam? I don't know what it was.
I heard
You
that
guys got a theory?
in one. No, I don't have a theory. I think it's probably some sort of performance art
Yes,
piece.
I thought so.
I think it's also funny that I heard last night that he actually waved at the Ring doorbell in one one place because he knew he was on video. So I don't know. It's very funny to me, and I think it's I don't know what his point was, but if it was just to make us all laugh in this hellscape of a week that we all endured, I'm down
I
with
do
that.
have a theory.
What
have a
is it?
theory. This guy was some kind of a hoarder who's like, man, all these people are giving away these TVs and started picking them up on garbage day and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden he realized he's got a basement full of TVs that nobody wants, that he can't sell for anything. And getting rid of them is not easy either. So I'll just gift them back to the neighborhood.
Can TVs be recycled? I think they should be.
Yeah,
So,
well, you're supposed to.
Yeah.
And apparently they do that.
But I mean, I see those big blocky ones on curbs all the time.
We used to have TV repairmen would come by.
Yeah, remember the
You'd have
TV
a whole case
repairman?
with the different tubes.
Oh, I know. Well,
You
that was
know?
back when the TV was.
Our
a piece
dog
of
bit the
furniture.
guy once.
Oh,
Well,
sorry.
He went out to his car and he came back. He just opened the door. The dog,
bit him. Oh, I'm
he
sorry
tore
to
his
hear that.
pants.
well, look,
Had to
before we
had to
leave-
pay for his pants.
before we
besides
leave,
the repair for
and we didn't get to this, but Jocelyn Benson under a little bit of fire for wait times. Anybody had to go to the Secretary of State recently?
No, but I've been following some stories on my social media, and I have heard some horror.
3.5
stories.
hours for me to renew my.
Is
my
that right?
ID,
Gosh,
yeah.
really?
You know what? I had the most pleasant experience. I did everything by mail. I got a new license. I got a new tab, all by mail. Everything came.
Yeah,
I was
if you
like,
go
wow.
online, if you do it by mail, you can really.
You can't always do
but
that.
You can't always do it.
I do
Sometimes
ha-
you have to renew your
You're like,
driver's
make an appointment.
license.
I'm like, well
Well,
I
no,
don't want
I
to make an appointment for next
renewed-
Tuesday. I want it today.
I renewed my driver's license and it was enhanced, and they Send it to me.
Well, eventually you're going to have to show up.
You
Let's
will.
hope they
Next
iron
time.
it out.
Let's
Next
hope-
time.
She's got to work
Let's
on
hope
this.
in 3 years
She's
they
got a
can
lot
get
on
it
her plate
together.
because she's also got to put together this new redistricting commission. She
There's
better have
also
some
a challenge to that going on.
I know,
so
but she better have some good underlings that she can delegate to because this is a
we
problem.
shall see.
Okay,
But,
more will be revealed.
We'll
That's
do
the
this
mantra.
again next week because I have a feeling there'll be just another week of silliness. It's supposed to be the slow season.
It's
There's
not.
no shortage of anything this time.
Well,
around.
Trump is always keeping it
He's
alive.
on vacation though. He went on vacation, so he's officially like.
The Twitter.
Wow.
But
the
they
tweets
didn't
never
take his
stop
phone
coming.
away. So no,
Right.
he left yesterday. I guess he's going to one
Well,
of
as
his
long as he's got
clubs.
access to cable news, then he's going to be making noise about something.
I wonder
so.
what poor little Barron does at these things. Besides,
I'm waiting for him to
don't
do
know.
a tell-all.
I'm shocked he hasn't been shipped off to boarding school somewhere yet.
Well, I know, and I think that who knows? I hope he gets to like summer camp or something, or has a nice Secret Service agent who's willing to like go fish with him or whatever little boys like to do. It's just I feel so terrible for that kid. Anyway,
All right, well, we'll have to leave it there.
Okay.
Nancy, thank you very much. Alan Lengel, Nancy
you.
Derringer,
Thank
Michael.
you.
Appreciate it. Michael Lucido, engineering
Yeah,
our
Michael.
broadcast today. And thanks, everybody, for watching. I'm Craig. Have a great weekend. This is The Week That Was on Deadline Detroit. We'll see you next week.
And
Okay.
drive home safely.
Hey, the Craig Fahle Show on Deadline Detroit is made possible by Samaritas, which is the state's largest private foster care and adoption agency. But they do a heck of a lot more than that. They've been serving homeless families, persons with disabilities, abused and trafficked women. They're also one of the largest resettlement agencies in the state. They provide market rate and affordable housing for seniors and HUD housing for families. And they also have skilled nursing, memory care, and rehab communities in Grand Rapids, Cadillac, and Saginaw. Samaritas, thanks for their support. Great organization doing great stuff all around the state.